Hi.
Hi.
Let's start with an icebreaker. We have a deck of conversation cards here. I'll let you pick. I'll let you be pick the magic
Hmm.
card that we can share
So,
about.
how are you creating a life well lived? Hmm. Interesting question. I think I am creating a life well lived by being my authentic self. It took a lot of years. I didn't come out till I was like 38.
Mm.
And even then, I think it's a process of now who am I as a lesbian, or who am I in this community? And so by living authentically and being myself, I think it's led me to be the age I am and very comfortable with who I am. And I feel that I've created that life here in this valley too. I think in the beginning, wherever we come from, those are a lot of our formative years. And this has been the time in my life where I get to create something different because I came here not knowing anybody.
Yeah.
And so I got to create this different life here that I wanted for my chapter 3.
Mm. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I can relate to creating something new. For me too, I moved to the desert not knowing anybody. I came here for recovery. I got sober out here. Prior to this, I was not really living. I was kind of hiding my true self. So about this chapter 3, I'm curious. Let's start at chapter 1. Just a little tidbit about like where you came from, where your life started.
Yeah. Well, my life started kind of uniquely since I was born and raised in Las Vegas
Oh, wow.
and in the 50s. So it was like that Rat Pack kind of Vegas. And when we were talking earlier about gambling, I think the reason I never really liked gambling too is I was the baby of the family, so I would go out to dinner. I didn't know you had to pay for food as a kid if you were in a restaurant
Really?
because everything was comped.
Yeah.
I grew up with it in a comped world,
Yeah.
but when you are comped, even if you know people, because my father obviously worked in the industry back in Chicago in the speakeasies, so that's why we came
Oh,
to Las Vegas.
wow.
Yeah, and so when you get your free meal, they still are expecting you to do a little gambling.
Yeah.
So that's when I'd have to go to the powder room. They had powder room maids back then, and I would sit with the powder room maids because I couldn't be on the gambling floor. But you
Wow.
had it because I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I either was in the powder room or walking around the pool areas till my parents were done gambling
Oh
for
my
the meal that we
God.
just ate, for the lobster I just got to have as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with that. Although I have to say, I did fall face first into the cactus garden at the Desert Inn Hotel as a little kid with cactus things all over me. So, we were unattended children, either in powder rooms or whatever, but there were no gaming rooms then.
No.
This was an adult town that I was raised in, very adult.
Yeah.
I think the Hilton Hotel finally in the 70s might have gotten some gaming, like ping pong or I don't know,
For kids.
for kids,
Yeah.
but there was nothing for kids.
Yeah.
So it was really a very adult town that I grew up in, and a really unique kind of not your normal kind
Yeah.
of city.
Do you think that did you think that created opportunities for you to age faster or grow up faster, I should say?
I don't know if it did that, but yeah, probably because you know we went out a lot. I went to shows. I can't tell you how many times I saw Elvis Presley, Tom Jones. I
Oh,
mean, as a
wow.
kid, we saw all those because they were the dinner shows. They couldn't leave me at home. I was the last kid,
Mhm.
so they just schlepped me along. So that was kind of interesting. That's not your normal childhood. So I guess, seeing dollars being placed in maitre d's hands and is a different way of growing up as a kid
Yeah.
than someone from Ohio.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't going to have
Exactly.
that same experience. So in that way, it was a more adult kind of world I did grow up in, I guess. I
Yeah.
really never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then you stayed there.
And I stayed there and I started protesting the Vietnam War at the little tiny UNLV that only had like 2 buildings and dirt lots and things. And so, but that's kind of where I started my kind of passion for the underdog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did that look like? Did you meet people that were also like into
Yeah.
activism and community?
Yeah. Like even in high school, we did an underground newsletter that we put out about the protests and stuff. And it was so funny because you're talking about mimeograph machines and borrowing some dad's office in downtown Las Vegas to be putting out these things, and then you distributing them in high school, and they're like, and the administration's going, "Who's distributing these things?" You know, kind
So you
of
were a
thing.
little bit of a rebel.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rebel. We had because we had to wear dresses then, so it was about wearing pants. You know, the articles were about the war, about feminism, and that we shouldn't have to. I was in the principal's office a lot because I would wear pants when I wasn't supposed to wear pants. And we actually got the dress code changed in our high school eventually.
Really?
But yes, but I became a senator to get that law changed. So that's when I started figuring out that you sometimes have to play this with the system to beat the system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Senator
in school.
In school.
In
Okay.
school, yeah, a senator in the high school. Yeah, we
Okay.
had a government in our high school, and we ran for. So we were the hippies, you know. So we ran for office. Yeah, the hippies and the jocks, you know, they were all the football players, and we were all the pot smokers. I mean, it was just how it's just how it was, you know. But then protesting, you know, the war. I think it's funny now when people are saying, "Oh, I don't want to go out these protests." You know, what if they're taking pictures? They were taking. FBI was taking pictures at all these things. This is not a new governmental thing that's going on. This has always been going on. And we knew that the FBI was out there taking pictures of all these kids out there protesting, but we didn't care.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that because I often have a little bit of fear when getting into activism. I just feel like, oh, that will create a target on my back. Like, what would you say to people that are of the younger generation that maybe should get out there and fight for what they've been given?
Right.
You know, fight for something that other people have fought for.
Yeah, and I'd say, yeah, think about it and do it anyway. Because even with this background, it took I received my Ice Out bumper sticker in the mail, and it took me a few weeks to really think, am I going to put this on my card? Does it make me a target? Like, do it anyway. You know, that I just thought, I don't care. So what if it does make me a target? The target of what? Everybody's a target now. You know, is how I kind of feel. So I put it on there, but those moments are real though, because it's about safety and self-preservation, and you wonder about that. But then I have to go back to, no, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't do. This sucks. And especially, oh, and you know, when it got put on is after these 3 deaths just happened too, and I just went, I'm done. I'm done being afraid of them and putting it on my card. This is ridiculous, you know. So yeah, and sometimes you just gotta you just got to do it.
Yeah, but that's courage too, and I wonder. I'm curious if you always were courageous. It sounds like you were a rebel in some ways, especially.
I'm kind of a survivor kind of person. Yeah, I didn't have a great childhood, so I fought my way out of that. You know, and so I think survivor is kind of my mentality. You know, I've been on my own since I was 17. And that's different than 17-year-olds now. You know, it's way different. Yeah. And so it's interesting, you know, when you look at the generations, my generation, I was thinking, oh, you know, they think we're so weird. Every generation thinks the next generation's so weird because it is so different, you know. And so, you know, when I think about what I was accomplishing in my early 20s, nowadays I think they're in their 30s before they're attempting those same things, like having families, doing the, you know, it's being on their own. It's a struggle because things cost so much more.
That's true.
You know, it wasn't a quarter that you know to put gas in your car. Anymore. Exactly. It's like $5, so it's a whole different thing.
So about family, I know that you started a family. How old were you when you started your family?
I had my daughter when I was 21, just a month before I turned 21.
And
Yeah.
do you have any more kids?
So I have a stepdaughter that is a year and a half older than my daughter, and then I have my son, who I was 29 when I had my son.
Oh, wow.
And so those are my three kids. Um, but speaking as a woman and a feminist, that doesn't mean that I was only pregnant two times,
Hmm.
because I really, since Roe v. Wade has been abolished, I think, more of a rebel about saying I've had five pregnancies in my life. I've had a miscarriage, two live births, and two abortions. And I'm
Wow.
not hiding that anymore in my life because we shouldn't.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
how did you get into feminism and what does that look like for you?
I think I was just born a feminist.
Yeah.
I just was. I just, you know, patriarchy. It was just being surrounded by that, and I think maybe too being in Las Vegas
Hmm.
made me more of a feminist because that gender stuff was so in your face, and men were everything, and the cocktail waitresses had the cute little outfits, and it's a whole different kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
I think just seeing that growing up, seeing my sister be a cocktail waitress, I thought I'll never do that. Oh my gosh! Well, I did. When I had a baby and I needed to make money, guess what I did.
Yeah.
But I think I just really saw that difference, and just that feminism was just in me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we either have it or we don't. I think that
Mm.
you develop that. I think, well, some things you have to develop. When you know better and learn things, you do
Yeah,
better.
I mean
Yeah,
that's happened for me in my life too.
yeah.
I have to learn the hard way. I have to experience something. But I'm curious, so when funny story, when you first started and we were just talking about this, I didn't know how to ask, like, are you how is I think I asked, what's your relation to the LGBTQ community? I didn't know if you were an ally because
The big L.
I knew you had kids, and so
Yeah,
I knew that
yeah,
you had been an advocate for HIV and
yeah.
AIDS, and that's something I'm really curious about too, is talking about that. But I'm curious, when did you come out as lesbian?
So I actually really wanted to come out in my first time I kissed a girl, in my teen years. But in the 70s, and I wrote a little, whatever those are. What is it, a
Yeah,
blog that
little
I wrote
blogs.
about it?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know how to come out. Um, Lesbian wasn't a chic word. In fact, it was a horrible sounding word.
Mm.
And I could identify as bisexual, I guess, at that time because it was gentler,
Yeah.
easier, more palatable to
Yeah.
say, that I was bi. And I tried to come out to my sister because I knew that she had had a menage a trois. So I thought, oh, so she's been with a woman, so she must know this. And so I came out to her over dinner at the El Cortez. I'll never forget it, downtown Las Vegas. And we were having dinner, and I said, I think I'm bi. I think I'm bi.
Yeah.
What a bold statement. It's like,
Well,
ugh.
hey, it
And
comes
she said,
steps.
no, you're not. And that was the end of that conversation. And that kind of put me in this place of, oh, so how do I come out? Am I? It was just this
Yeah.
weird
It's like shut down.
shutdown that I thought, well, this is my family. This is people that love me. So how am I going to go out in the world? How am I going to ask a woman out? Because what are they going to think of me? So I didn't even know how to do that, and I got married again.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know, it just didn't happen. I mean, I did have a relationship with a woman, but it was a trio also because I didn't know how to just be a lesbian one on one,
Yeah.
with someone. So, so I identified as, when I was married. I told, I keep touching that thing. I'm so sorry. I told my, at the time he wasn't my husband, but my boyfriend, that I was bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. So that we got into that knowing that. So when I was married, I identified myself as a bisexual woman in a heterosexual marriage,
Yeah.
And that felt okay for a while because I could hang on to that. And then as the marriage was disintegrating, then I just realized I needed to come out. Well, I was 38 by that time. So I'd had another child, life continued. And I I actually didn't come out until I got out of the marriage.
Yeah.
What happened was, again, abortion rights came up in my town. And there was a group called Operation Rescue that were chaining themselves to abortion clinics so women could not get into them. And so women were now uniting, like Now Women, National Organization of Women, and those kind of organizations were coming in and doing clinic escorting the women through these protest crowds and that. And I was sitting there, and my old Vietnam protester came back out in me, and I thought, not in my town. And so I called up Planned Parenthood and said, "What's happening here?" And they said, "Well, a bunch of feminists are meeting at some library in town, and here's where you can go." And a week later, I was chairing that organization.
Wow.
And it's not because I didn't believe in consensus, as most of those feminists did at that time, but it was mostly because it's like, we have to get things done.
Yeah.
And we were getting up at like 4 a.m, going out. It was all this, it was in the newspaper, it was in the news all the time. These protests were going on. It was really, this was about 1989, I would think, about around that time. And then I wound up getting a job at Planned Parenthood. And that's when I said, "Look at all these lesbians." Oh
That's
my
where
gosh.
they were.
Oh my gosh. Where have you been all my life? You've been at Planned Parenthood. And I went to a conference, a Planned Parenthood conference, and then there were more lesbians at the conference. I was like, and I'm talking to my husband at home going, "I'm having a great time, honey. It's a lovely time." And within the year, I was, separated from my husband and, came out. And that was really interesting too, because we did this whole campaign. We codified, that organization wound up codifying Roe v. Wade in the state of Nevada.
Oh, wow.
Meaning it's in our Constitution that it is a right. And so in that process, I was also networking with all these like junior league women, and they knew me as a straight woman, and now I'm now identifying as a lesbian. And so that was a really odd transition for me to go through.
Did people treat you differently?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know what I mean? Because I can't read what their minds were thinking.
Yeah.
But it's how it came across to me. Like when you're just a heterosexual couple and you get introduced, no one's thinking, "Oh, well, they must have sex." It's just assumed.
Yeah.
But when you say you're a lesbian, all of a sudden visuals come into people's heads, different, they're seeing you and thinking about you in a different way, and it's sexual, and you're like, "No, you don't get to think about me like that," but you don't have control of that.
That's true.
Because so that felt very foreign to me, really foreign. It was like, this is not a fun part of the coming out process. And I was also afraid of rejection too. Like, are they still going to be my friends? Are they going to still see me? Even though most of my girlfriends at the time would say, "Oh, if I ever was with a woman, it'd be you." When it is you, you're thinking, "Really?" Do you still mean that?
Exactly.
Kind of thing. But yeah, so it was a weird process coming out later in life.
Yeah.
And then I just got thrown into HIV and AIDS. Right. I mean, the time was all just ripe right there when that was happening. I lost the funding at Planned Parenthood, where I was working then.
Yeah.
And went right into the largest AIDS service organization in Nevada.
What year? What time frame was this?
This is 92.
92.
So, and I was there 11 years. So through the whole height of the epidemic, before before 96, before there was a cocktail, when there was nothing, and I mean nothing. When you'd answer the phone and someone was just diagnosed, a lot of the times they had a gun in their hand when they're talking to you on the phone because they've just been handed a death sentence back then. And you're talking to them. And before 96, I can honestly tell you, we didn't have a lot to offer them as far as hope, except our words and accept our love that we hope was coming through. But there wasn't anything. There wasn't anything. And yeah, it was the most pivotal time in my life, I think, in my growth in being a person.
Yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of it. The growth was like, I described it, and I don't know if this means anything to anybody but me, but like I had on jetpacks and had on roller skates but I was going through sludgy mud in my being, in taking it all in, because the backpacks were like, things were happening so fast. People would die. You didn't have a time to mourn them because you had some other problem right in front of you, or this was happening. And it was, so the speed of that, and that's where the roller skates were in, it was happening. But yet it was so heavy. Yeah. So heavy that the weight of it was just immense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every World AIDS Day is still a very special day to me.
Yeah.
Because those were the times of the vigils and finding the gifts of AIDS. And I remember talking to a crowd one time about the gifts of AIDS, and people were kind of pissed at that time when they heard that. They were like, "How can you say that?" And I said, "Because when you're deep in it, you were witnessing the gifts. There were families that were just finding out that their sons were gay, and they were dying at the same time. And the healing, there's horror stories. Don't get me wrong. There are, and we all have heard those horror stories. But I got to see those other stories too, of those parents that just looked at you like, help us, help us. We don't want to lose our son. One of my sweet dear friends was 18 when he had his first sexual experience and was also infected. And his whole goal was to make it to 21. And he never made it. He never made it. And those stories will stay with me for absolutely, and those faces for absolutely ever. But you can't help but be a changed person after you go through something like that. And AIDS was like nothing else that we've experienced. And I love that we're getting the memorial here.
Yeah.
And I brought up the fact to that group too. Don't forget about the lesbians that were there at the AIDS wards, bringing in balloons at 2 a.m. to celebrate someone. There were glorious moments. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There were glorious, glorious moments in those times, and great times that I would never ever forget. But it was the lesbians that were there. The women supported the men like crazy. We were doing crazy things. We were pulling blood in gay bars. We had phlebotomists with us, and we were doing blood draws and outreaches in gay bars in Las Vegas in the early 90s. And CDC was going, "You're doing what?" And we're like, because there weren't quick tests. There weren't, all that led up to all that stuff happening. But in the beginning, we were actually just drawing blood in gay bars.
Oh my gosh. You can imagine. How long did you work with which age?
It was Aid for AIDS in Nevada, called AFAN. I was there 11 years as Director of Prevention Education. Street outreach. There's parts of town where I was known as the Q-tip because I had this blonde, spiky hair, and I was very white in the neighborhoods where I was. Mm-hmm. And so I was either the condom lady or the Q-tip. Q-tip. But, and, I mean, just the experiences of that time are, it's just immeasurable. The women, the sex workers that were now no longer a misdemeanor, that they were in prison for a felony because they were HIV positive. I did women's groups in the prisons and realized these women were just, they would have been my best friend out on the street probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
What were they were? It was a felony for them just to have HIV, or to
because they were
because they were.
be, because they were having sex, being positive. This is an
Oh,
attempted murder charge.
oh wow.
Yeah, it took a long time to get that taken off the books as attempted murder. It is no longer like that, but in the beginning, in the 90s, yeah, I mean, and these women, they were addicted.
Yeah.
They were addicted. They were crack addicts, most of them. And yeah, yeah. So it was just a crazy time.
And then you were the director of the LGBT center
Yeah,
in Las Vegas.
yeah, which was also a fun thing because it was located between, when I got there, between two sex clubs. It was totally in a strip mall, and I had a gay men's gym on one side and the Green Door heterosexual sex club on the other. So let me just say that the capital campaign for me to get a new building was an easy sell to a lot of places because they really didn't think our youth needed to be in that area any longer.
Yeah.
So by the time I left, I did that for 10 years also. By the time I left, we had a freestanding, state of the art, 20,000 square foot building.
Wow.
With, yeah, and that's still standing today. And they've added a clinic to that. So that
That's
legacy
amazing.
continued. And so that's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
To left my, especially leaving that to my hometown, after not being able to find my way in that city,
Yeah.
in being gay, than to leave it with the center. It's a proud moment for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
You're lighting a path for others to follow, which is
Yeah.
really, really powerful. Yeah. And takes a lot of courage. And so thank you for that. I am curious. So after that, you moved here. And what is life like in the desert for you now?
This is, I have to say that this, to move here only took one phone call from Mike Thompson. Because actually, the job that Mike took and the job before him came across my desk when I was in Vegas, the headhunter desk, saying, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, could I move there? Do I want to do that job?" So Palm Springs kept flittering by in my consciousness in the years, and then I was on the national board for centers, and they knew Mike was looking for someone to run programs. So they said, "Why don't you give Candice a call? She's not working right now." And in that one conversation, there's only been two other people, I think, in my whole life that I knew this about. That when you meet them, or that that's a person that needs to be in your life, that that's a person you're going to learn something from. And one was my mentor at Planned Parenthood. She was a woman that just came in because she was at the AAA and she just moved to town, and we were across the street, and she used to volunteer. Before she left, I offered her half my job.
Wow.
I job shared with her because I knew, and she was a therapist, and I knew this is who I need to learn how how to how to do what I need to do in the next stage of my life.
Yeah.
And Mike was the same thing. One phone call from him, and I thought, I need to work with this guy.
Yeah.
This guy needs to be in my life. He's got something that I need.
Yeah.
And that was in June. He had just taken the job. And I think my first trip out was October. And January of 2015, I was working here and had moved. And my life changed because I was in a relationship, and that wound up ending. It didn't survive the long distance. But I've created a new family here. Yeah. And Vegas has gotten way too wild and big and huge for me to even want to be a part of anymore. So it wasn't hard leaving, and I left with a great legacy,
Yeah.
of that center. So I felt very finished
Ready for chapter 3.
and ready for chapter 3, and that's what's been created here, and a family has been created here. And my passion just for what I do, and I'm grappling with that whole retirement issue too, because it's like, when you become a certain age, everyone thinks you should be doing this or be doing that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure what that age is, especially when I see people like Jane Fonda in her 80s doing whatever, and of course she's gloriously rich, but still, doing whatever, and I think I it's so much a passion of who I am too, that I think I would be so bored with my life not to be engaged in a deep level in my community. I don't think I can just be on a superficial level.
Yeah.
In my community.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been very integrated with every community that you've been a part of.
Yeah.
You've taken a leadership role, it sounds like, in
Yeah.
each place. What does that leadership look like for you here?
Well, I hope I'm a good mentor to a lot of people. I know even my sweet friend over to my left, Raul, has told me, especially in our early days of knowing each other, that I was a little bit of a mentor for them when they first came into this kind of environment. Coming from the hospitality industry into this was quite different, and and I think mostly a mentor in I think mentors are just people that we watch. They're not doing anything for us. We are just, I don't know what it is. We just watching and vicariously.
I would think from a mentor. Like, I've had several mentors in my life at different times when I've needed to look up for guidance, and like, just like I said, you lighting a path for other people. Like, I could see you as being that person.
Well, and I think sometimes you're a mentor without knowing you're a mentor. You're just being yourself, but you're being observed being yourself. And I think that's probably more, not teachable moments but their conversations and their observations, I think, are what mentors
like
are.
This one.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we're gonna do a quick lightning round of fast questions, just 1 or 2 word responses.
Ooh, I kind of like a lightning round.
And then I'm gonna ask you one final question, which is our signature question. And this was a great conversation. I'm like very, very grateful that you took the time to sit down with me today. And I love that I never know where it's gonna go. Exactly, and that's beautiful. I think it went in a really beautiful way. So thank you for that. Okay. Desert sunrise or desert sunset? What's your favorite?
Sunset.
Okay. Favorite comfort food?
Ooh, Mexican.
Mexican. Okay. One word your friends would use to describe you?
Blunt.
Okay, true. Dream vacation?
Beaches.
Beaches. And are you an introvert or extrovert?
Both.
Okay, I see that. And then the signature question, and I think this is like really most important, but and just so that I get this right, looking back along your way, what lesson do you wish someone had shared with you?
Yeah, that's a real interesting one. Because I don't know who that someone would have been. But if there was someone out there, and it almost sounds cliche, but being a survivor of like child abuse and that things get better. Yeah. There was that whole campaign about it gets better, and it sounds so cliche, but it is true. And I think that, we all have moments of up and down, and in those down moments, to be honest, there's times where you're like, oh, I don't even know if I want to be here anymore. And yeah. And in those moments, you just kind of realize, though, too, that without you here, it would be so different, and that your difference matters. But in those moments, you don't think that you matter. You know what I mean?
I do.
In those moments of desperation, it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm here or not. But then, in those moments, you think, yeah, but it does matter
Yeah.
because we are making those contributions. We are a part of something. But I just wish someone, maybe would have said to me, don't worry about it. It will get better. I had to find that on my own, but it would have been easier. But then who said we get an easier path?
Exactly.
Who said we get that? Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for this.
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, but that was a hard.
Thank you for watching Along Their Way, a conversation series exploring the lives, experiences, and journeys of the people who help shape our community. Through stories of resilience, becoming, and belonging, we discover what connects us and what makes each path unique. We'll see you next time.